Your reaction when the Vikings signed Kyler Murray?
Kyler Murray is a dramatic improvement over what we watched in Minnesota last season.
The organization made a decision that they feel is going to improve the depth and the quality of the room.
There's a reason Kyler Murray's there.
Kyler's a playmaker.
His ability to play efficient football.
My confidence is unshakable. You won't see me waver.
Who's going to be that last man standing?
He sits on one side, I sit on the other side, and it's the coach's responsibility to teach us and coach us.
Now that I am here,
all I'm going to do is focus on what I can control.
We love an off-season storyline. Welcome into NFL Live. Molly McGrath here with Kevin Clark in studio. Mina Kimes, Bill Barnwell also joining us. And as you saw, the open competition at quarterback in Minnesota continues. And you know what they say, if you have two quarterbacks, then that means you have none. Last season, J.J. McCarthy's performance was marked by inconsistency, so Minnesota overhauled the position, adding veteran Kyler Murray to the mix, among others. And Vikings head coach Kevin O'Connell hoping this open competition makes their QB1 clear. O'Connell went on the Dan Patrick Show and talked about their quarterback situation.
Kyler has come in and done a great job. JJ, I think, has benefited from it. He had a really good spring. Carson Wentz is this veteran quarterback in the room that, as a guy who's played 7 or 8 quarterbacks in 4 years, the 2 years we had our starter, play the whole season, we won 13 and 14 games. So we want to try to get back to the standard of having the quarterback position be a driving force behind us winning by doing their job, by hopefully activating the great players they get to play with.
So it's been an every other year thing at quarterback for Kevin O'Connell since becoming the Vikings head coach. Minnesota had just one starting QB in 2022 and 24. Cousins and Darnold won 13 and 14 games, but things unraveled a bit between that. 3 different starters last year went a combined 9 and 8. That's just not going to cut it. So, Mina, which quarterback do you believe has a better chance of meeting the expectations O'Connell has for the position?
Yeah, if anyone was paying attention to the sounds we were playing at the beginning of the show, you might have heard me say dramatic improvement, Kyler Murray over J.J. McCarthy. So I kind of gave that one away, Molly. But, for me, it's not just about the quarterback. It's about the entire team. Justin Jefferson should never have a season like the one we saw last year. He is one of the, if not the best receivers in football, and he was really limited by quarterback play. To put it in perspective, throwing to Justin Jefferson, J.J. McCarthy had an off-target rate of 28%. That is about twice what Sam Darnold's off-target rate was throwing to Jefferson, and the same with Kirk Cousins. It was mostly not his fault, and frankly, you could see him get frustrated as the season went on. So if Kyler Murray brings even average quarterback play, which I think he is capable of, whether or not that ceiling looks more like it did in 2020, has to do with a variety of factors, including his deep ball coming back. To me, that's a massive upgrade, and it's so important for this group of talented wide receivers to play with a competent quarterback.
Molly, you said if you have 2 quarterbacks, you have no quarterbacks. If you have J.J. McCarthy, you also have no quarterbacks, because last year there was just an inability for him to hit the layups that Kevin O'Connell schemes. And there's very few people who create more layups than Kevin O'Connell. Last year, J.J. McCarthy held the ball almost historically long. No player on record has taken longer than 2.5 seconds more often to throw than J.J. McCarthy last year. Kyler Murray will not do that. In fact, last year was the quickest release of his career. He's getting better at the short stuff, getting better at the quick stuff. So that's all he needs to do in this offense. I just think you pair that with a defense that was still 7th in the NFL last year. Pair that with Justin Jefferson and a skill group that is going to be there just like it was 2 years ago. I just feel like this can be a real deal NFC contender, and I feel like we kind of glossed over what average quarterback play can look like in this offense. Mina mentioned it. If Kyler Murray's average, and I think he'll be above average, and he can use his legs to expand the scheme, really good things are going to happen, and that division got even tougher this year.
We need to temper our enthusiasm just a tiny bit with KOC saying, basically, if I have competent quarterback play, we're going to win 13 or 14 games. Something else happened those years. They were incredibly effective in one-score games. They were 20-2 in games decided by 8 points or less in those 2 seasons. In KOC's other 2 seasons, they were 11-12. And yes, of course, having a good quarterback can help you win some of those close games or avoid them altogether by winning in a dominant fashion. But show me Tom Brady, show me Patrick Mahomes, any quarterback in the history of football, you're not winning 20 out of your 22 one-score games consistently. So I understand last year we came into the year basically thinking you could plug me in a quarterback and win 11, 12 games in this offense. It is going to take something more, and they are going to have to be more consistent in avoiding those one-score games, because you can't count on winning so many of them, even if you have decent quarterback play.
Yeah, it seems like it's Kyler Murray's job to lose. But to your point, Bill, Kyler Murray not fared well in one-score games, 19, 28, and 1 in his 7-year career. So something's got to change there. Now there are no questions at quarterback in Baltimore, but the Ravens will showcase a new-look offense under an all-new coaching staff. First-year OC Declan Doyle will try to get the best out of his veteran Lamar Jackson. And his teammate safety Kyle Hamilton joined the show yesterday and complimented Jackson's offseason work ethic.
Yeah, I mean, I think the best thing about Lamar, one of the best things about Lamar, is he's going to act the same in March and April as he will in January, February. And, you know, he does a great job of kind of separating, you know, the fun from the work. And, you know, he keeps it as light as possible. But at the same time, he does a great job just locking back in and making sure everybody else is locked in. He preaches that to us.
So we know Lamar's a constant in Baltimore, but elsewhere the Ravens made significant changes this offseason, including a revamp of the offensive line. The big addition came on defense, though, in Trey Hendrickson and the return of veteran Calais Campbell. So, Kevin, how do you think this pairing of Lamar Jackson and his new offensive coordinator will go?
I love it. And Bill, you mentioned that people thought that you could play quarterback for the Vikings last year. No one thinks that about the Ravens. Bill Barnwell will be a bad quarterback for the Baltimore Ravens. And the reason is because this offense needs Lamar to go. Last year, you saw it. If you look at his tracking numbers that the NFL puts out, he wasn't doing not nearly as many design runs after his injury last year, and he was moving more slowly last year. So there's a couple of things to worry about. But I think this Declan Doyle offense is going to go with explosive plays, explosive schemes, spread the defense out more, give Lamar a little more room to cook, 3-4 wide receivers. I'm intrigued to see it. I think this works. I think that Mike McDonald in Seattle is a really good guidepost for some of these franchises that tried to get a fresh voice in the room, right? You fire Pete Carroll, you bring in Mike McDonald. In Baltimore, you fire John Harbaugh, you bring in Jesse Minter. In Buffalo, you fire Sean McDermott, a very successful coach, and you bring in Joe Brady. So I think that there's a proof of concept here in year one to hit the ground running. I think they do. I think this offense looks great.
I mean, Lamar Jackson's body of work alone, I think, can give us optimism for him bouncing back, because last year was a down season by his standards. And it was a weird one, right? Because some of the ways in which he struggled were things that he has not struggled at over the course of his career, specifically the number of sacks he took. I always look at the quarterback's pressure to sack rate, which is how often are they getting sacked when they're pressured. And Lamar Jackson was 31st in the NFL amongst quarterbacks last season. Now, that is not normal for him. He was 4th in that metric last year. Prior to that in his career, he ranked 11th. So I think, you know, going forward, he's obviously got to cut down on the sacks, but I also think it's more likely than not that that had a lot to do with his injuries, and also explains perhaps why he was rushing less. So if he can eliminate those negative plays and either escape more easily or recognize maybe that he's not as capable as he used to be, that to me alone will go a long way towards getting this offense back on track.
Yeah, if he can stay healthy and elevate his play, Lamar obviously a very important part of the success for the Ravens every single year. But Bill, give us another player that you think will have a major impact on how well they play this year.
Yeah, someone who does not get enough attention is Nnamdi Madubuike, the excellent defensive tackle who they really missed last season when he went down with a neck injury. And the numbers with him on and off the field are stark. Over the last 3 seasons, they are 3rd in the NFL in pressure rate with Madubuike on the field. They are 31st without their star defensive tackle on the field. Jesse Minter had a lot of pieces in Los Angeles, but the one thing he didn't have was that penetrating, three-technique defensive tackle. The guy who can really blow up plays before they even start by winning immediately. If the Ravens have that player, along with the pieces they've added on the edge, notably Trey Hendrickson, that is a fundamentally different defense, and it opens up so much of what you can do elsewhere in coverage, whether you want to blitz less, whether you want to put Kyle Hamilton deeper, lots of things you can do if you can win with your front four. So Madubuike's presence coming off of a neck injury is essential for this Ravens team to be more consistent on the defensive side of the football.
Bill, it's wild. Madubuike underwent neck surgery just this past April, and he's expected to return for the 2026 season. He played a career-low 2 games last year. They're definitely better with him on the field. Now new on NFL Live from Adam Schefter, former Lions cornerback Terrion Arnold took a physical in Houston on Thursday for the Texans and is scheduled to visit 2 more teams next week, per sources. Arnold was released by Detroit last week after he was arrested on felony charges of armed robbery and kidnapping. He's currently out on a $1 million bond and is subject to home confinement with the exception of work and legal appointments. Barnwell putting in some work here during the offseason. Take a break, Bill. He wrote an article ranking the skill groups. That's wideouts, tight ends, and running backs of all of the 32 teams. And here's his top 5. And remember, this is based on each team having the same average quarterback. The Lions top Bill's list behind All-Pro wideout Amon-Ra St. Brown, followed by Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams, and the Rams. The Bengals, Falcons, and 49ers round out the top 5. So Bill, there's so many talented teams in your top 5. Why did the Lions grab the top spot?
It's just that combo of great depth and then high-end talent. Of course, running back Jahmyr Gibbs, you're not going to get many arguments. If not the best back in football, probably top 2, top 3. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 3rd in receiving yards in the NFL over the last 3 seasons. A legitimate #1 wide receiver, so tough, so physical. Jameson Williams might be one of the 2 or 3 best #2 receivers in all of football. Might be a #1 for a fair amount of teams, given his speed and ability to create after the catch. And then Sam Laporta has had some injury issues, but really efficient, has been a threat in the red zone, a mismatch if you get him against the linebacker. Even their #5 guy, Isaac Tesla, who didn't play a ton last year, felt like every time we saw him play, he was making a leaping catch for a touchdown in the end zone. So just think the upside here, the floor is high, the ceiling is high. Just a really fun group of players for Jared Goff to throw to.
Yeah, I considered making a case for the Rams, and I think they're close. But ultimately, I found myself agreeing with Bill. I have the Lions at #1, too, for all the reasons you outlined. And I would add, I think, just looking at the skilled players, the interchangeability of them, the fact that they can use so many of them to do different things and sometimes take on the same roles. Jahmyr Gibbs, I think, has proven himself to be quite good at running between the tackles, maybe more so than people expected, but he's also an exceptional receiver. He's so good with the ball in his hands in space. Sam Laporta is a tight end, but he can run option routes with the best of them. He can win downfield. He's got great hands. And then Amon-Ra St. Brown is a receiver, but he blocks like a dang tight end, right? So when you have them on the field at the same time, you can just do so many different things with these players. And then to top it all off, Bill mentioned this too, they have some really good depth too.
I'm going to disagree with Bill because I like arguing with Bill Barnwell. I've got the Rams as #1, and I might have the Bengals as #2. I want to live with the Rams here for a second. I think Puka Nacua is an unbelievable nightmare for defenses. I talk to a lot of coaches around the league for my show, and I ask them what offense keeps them up at night, and almost all of them say the Rams offense. Now, part of that is Matthew Stafford. In this exercise, we're just supposed to have a neutral average quarterback. But part of it is also Puka Nacua. It's Devontae Adams, especially in the red zone, who can still get you a bucket even at his advanced age. Just the way that they deploy heavy and throw out of it. I mean, that is the league now, is to show you a bunch of big guys and then stretch the field vertically. That's what Sean McVay is able to do with this skill group. So I really like them. I think they're the best in the league. And then the Bengals team, obviously, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase. Again, don't have a neutral average quarterback. We don't know what that looks like necessarily every single year, but obviously they've got depth there, and I think a lot of teams would love to have that skill group, guys.
No question they would love to have those guys, but the person you mentioned with the Rams matters here, and that's Sean McVay, who does such a good job of getting those guys into places. With the Lions last year, Ben Johnson was not there. It was not the Ben Johnson show. There was multiple offensive play callers calling things for the Lions last year. So I think seeing those guys excel independent of, to me, one of the 3 or 4 best offensive play callers in football went a long way in deciding that the Lions were #1 as opposed to the Rams or Bengals, who, of course, 2 or 3 perfectly viable candidates for the top spot as well.
Hey, Bill, we did see Jake Browning with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, and we do know what that looks like. No disrespect to Jake Browning if you're watching this on a holiday weekend, Friday, buddy. But no, I just think that we've seen those guys, that offense, Mike Gesicki we've seen with average quarterbacks. So I do think that there's a case to be made with the Bengals here.
I love the passionate disagreement in July about what's to come
we do.
in the fall. But you know what? Let's just call it a tie, okay? We have more coming up here on NFL Live. Still to come, Mike McDaniel, the new bombshell Jim Harbaugh needed to enter the LA Villa. Love Island's NFL Live edition? What? Yes, that is next. And a couple of Dallas Cowboys can't get enough of all of the Love Island drama.
The latest season of Love Island, a lot of confusion, sincere, lying. Melanie, valid. She grew on me a little bit. Soul deserves better. Kenzie gotta go. She gotta go. Corbin, he has no game. He not hooping. KC deserve better. You watch Love Island? Yeah, tell him.
I'm not gonna lie. I shit Soul and Sincere. I'm not gonna lie. I don't like the way, Melanie did my dog. I actually know my boy Sincere. He needs better. I like Soul. KC needs to get rid of Anaya. She need to go, actually. All she is problems. I'm not gonna lie. My boy be doing the right thing. He be telling the truth. And it's just, no, we don't got time.
Gotta go. I can't wait. A Bombshell or a Caso Moore need to come on. They need to come next week.
Tell them we need a movie night. They took off movie nights. We need to.
Back here on NFL Live, and as we count down to training camp, Adam Schefter is bringing us his takes on some of the biggest storylines of this NFL offseason. And today, Adam is feeling a Love Island vibe with the Chargers' new coaching duo of Jim Harbaugh and Mike McDaniel. I've got a text. It's Shefty with more.
For the upcoming season, Los Angeles has produced the most discussed and dissected couple since Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. This past offseason, Chargers eccentric head coach Jim Harbaugh hired the former Dolphins eclectic head coach Mike McDaniel as his offensive coordinator.
I'm pretending like I'm going to change this call.
I'm just pretending like I'm drawing a passer.
I'm going to change this call. I'm not going to change the call.
Football now has its most intriguing and curious coupling in years.
I feel like the same guy. He's just taller.
McDaniel has a chance to transform this offense and take it to the next level.
You quarterback for Coach Harbaugh. You got to earn the right to throw a football.
Chargers left tackle Rashawn Slater returns after rupturing his left patella tendon just days after he became the NFL's highest paid offensive tackle. Chargers right tackle Joe Alt returns after suffering 2 right high ankle sprains that sidelined him much of last season.
It's like a gut punch right to the solar plexus.
The Chargers also drafted left guard Jake Slaughter in the 2nd round and signed free agent right guard Cole Strange and center Tyler Biadasz. Now the Chargers have upgraded their offensive line from last season when starting quarterback Justin Herbert was sacked a career worst 54 times.
He's going to get taken down again. 5th sack of the night.
After that, Harbaugh had no choice but to reevaluate his offense.
We'll be spending a lot of hard work and maybe even sleepless nights getting it figured out.
Eventually, he was drawn to McDaniel, and McDaniel was drawn to him. And cutting-edge offensive coordinator and the old-school head coach joined forces.
Mike McDaniel, really smart. Well, how smart are they, Coach? I'm not smart enough to know how smart those two are.
Over the years, there have been some curious couples. Megan Fox and Machine Gun Kelly, Russell Brand and Katy Perry, Flavor Flav and Brigitte Nielsen, Julia Roberts and Lyle Lovett. And now it's Harbaugh and McDaniel's turn, as they have taken vows, for better or worse, to make this a Chargers season to remember.
I think that's one of my favorite pieces that Adam Schefter has done. And I didn't know, I had no clue that he was a Love Island fan. But I love the juxtaposition between Jim Harbaugh and Mike McDaniel, the fact that you have the gold shades versus the gold khakis. You know, Mina, I have to ask you, I know you're a Love Island fan. Do you think that they'll have good banter, good chemistry together?
Good chat, as they say. So on this season of Love Island, there's a guy named Sincere. I won't get into it too much, but he has all the viewers screaming at the television, "Leave that man." That's how Chargers fans felt watching their offense at times last year about their former offensive coordinator. In comes Mike McDaniel, who was not just a bombshell, he was the bombshell of the season. Everybody wanted him as their offensive coordinator. It, to me, is a match made in heaven. I love what it's going to do for the run game. I love what it's going to do for the pass catchers. I think Justin Herbert will thrive. There is one thing, though, that I think needs to change for this relationship to truly hit the heights it can, and that's for Jim Harbaugh to be more aggressive. He was close to the most conservative coach in the entire NFL on 4th down last year, 31st. In terms of going for it when the model and then the NFL's model recommended he should. with this high-powered offense, I would really love to see that number tick up because I think they're capable of putting up some pretty insane numbers.
Yeah, having an effective run game is going to help Jim Harbaugh be more aggressive on fourth down. That's been missing the past couple seasons, but it's going to be in place here. Mike McDaniel is an excellent run game designer, typically leans more on those zone runs as opposed to gap runs, and that's a positive for this group of running backs in Los Angeles. Marion Hampton last year, better as a zone runner than a gap runner. He's going to be the lead guy, but even those secondary backs, Kamani Vidal and Keaton Mitchell, who came in from Baltimore, those guys were two of the 12 most efficient backs in football on outside zone runs a year ago. They're speedy, they can create at the second and third level, and this is an offensive line that has two incredibly athletic tackles, Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater, who are going to be going out, getting to run more than they did in the past, maybe getting a pancake or two. And we know how important it is to have pancakes when we're talking about Love Island. So I think this could be a match made in heaven, or at least potentially in a villa.
I don't know anything about this show. I don't know anything about reality TV, but I know that Mike McDaniel and Jim Harbaugh are two football weirdos who are going to deliver the Los Angeles Chargers to real deal AFC contention. This is a match made in football heaven, frankly, okay? I think about Justin Herbert and the fact that last year he was the first quarterback in 7 years to be the most pressured quarterback in football and still make the playoffs. Deshaun Watson and the Texans did that a long time ago. Marion Hampton, who Bill mentioned, he was contacted behind the line of scrimmage more than basically anybody in football last year. That won't happen this year as long as the offensive line is healthy. I understand we always have to say if with the Chargers, but I think this time next year, for the first time, maybe in 25 years, we will not be saying if with the Los Angeles Chargers.
We love football weirdos here. And to Mina's point, if Harbaugh is too conservative and remains conservative, even with Mike McDaniel as his OC, McDaniel could get the ick. So he's going to have to change his ways a little bit. We don't want that. Okay, let's stay with the theme here because it's going so well, right? A new bombshell has entered the villa in New England after their trade for Pro Bowl wide receiver A.J. Brown, and Tom Brady likes the fit.
AJ wanted to be involved in the game. I covered a lot of those Eagles games, you know, and that passing offense that's not what that team's known for. You know, so now he's actually going to a team where they are more known for their passing offense. So there will be maybe a little more satisfaction from him from that standpoint.
Okay, so to Brady's point, Drake May could be the perfect match for A.J. Brown. Just take a look at their success on deep throws last year. We're talking throws of at least 20 air yards. Drake May ranked top 5 in completions, and A.J. Brown ranked top 5 in targets. Seems like a good coupling there. So, Bill, do you agree with Brady that Brown is set up for better success in New England?
I'm going to take the bold stance that Tom Brady is correct about football and agree with the GOAT here and say, yes, this is going to be a great fit because there's something missing from A.J. Brown in Philadelphia that we saw in Tennessee. And those were those play action in breakers over the middle of the field, what he did best during his time in Nashville. At over 1,000 receiving yards on play action pass catches between the numbers in 3 seasons. That was more than 300 ahead of any other receiver in football over that time frame. Now in Philadelphia, much discussed, Jalen Hurts does not typically like to throw those digs, those in-breakers. But last year, the quarterback who led the entire NFL in play-action passes over the middle of the field was Drake May, who is a perfect fit now with this wide receiver in A.J. Brown. We're going to see more of that, more of those throws behind the linebackers, those layered passes that are so important for some NFL quarterbacks, really essential for Drake May. Perfect fit here with A.J. Brown.
I think A.J. will also just benefit from playing in an offense with some unpredictability. You know, defenses not knowing if they're going to run or pass on any given play, not anticipating that he's going to run either a go or a hitch on every play. I mean, A.J. Brown had the highest tight window rate in terms of his targets of any receiver with at least 100 targets last year in the NFL. And maybe folks will hear that and say, well, some of that has to do with him losing his step or just the nature of the type of player he is, perhaps. But I believe a lot of it also had to do with defenses knowing exactly what he was going to do on every pass play. And that has nothing to do with Jalen Hurts, by the way, Eagles fans, before anyone gets upset. So I do think this is going to be a good marriage, and I do think he is going to benefit from his new destination.
Bill, I will point out that Tom Brady has been running the Raiders for a few years, so he's not infallible when it comes to football opinions. I think there's a middle ground here. I think that there's a little bit of, I wouldn't call it gaslighting, but a little bit of rewriting history with how favorable this offense in Philadelphia was the last few years. Now, last year, the numbers were not nearly as good as they were 2 years ago, but Jalen Hurts was still one of the best downfield throwers in football when A.J. Brown was there. And Jalen Hurts was the second best guy as far as hitting open guys downfield, which A.J. Brown often was. So, yes, last year, offensive line wasn't nearly as good as it had been. Saquon Barkley wasn't as good as it has been, so there was less space to operate. Hurts wasn't as good, but the tenure in Philadelphia was still a massive success, and I don't want to rewrite that. The Eagles situation was favorable to receiver, with Devontae Smith on the other side, skill guys all over the place, great run game. So, yes, this can work here, but I don't want to rewrite history and seem like he was playing for the Jets for the last 5 years.
Yeah, to Kevin's point, Jalen Hurts has 39 career touchdowns on throws of 20-plus yards downfield. Only Derek Carr has more since 2020. But maybe a new destination is the right thing for him. He needed a new coupling, if you will. It's time now for some quick reads on some other pairings we're excited to see coupled up this year. Kevin, you're up first.
All right, I'm going with the Denver Broncos. Jalen Waddle, one of the 3 best vertical receivers in football in his career. Now he goes to a place with Sean Payton. He will know how to use that kind of verticality. I think that what this move signifies is that Sean Payton knows the AFC is wide open. This is the year to go for it. They are all in this roster. I think it's going to work. They're going to win that division. They are real deal contenders.
Chris Shula, one of the happiest guys this offseason, because not only did he get Myles Garrett, he also got Trent McDuffie. That trade happened, by the way. And I'm interested in seeing how it affects his defense. Does having a lockdown corner give him more comfort, calling a bit more man coverage, something you didn't see a lot in Los Angeles? Perhaps sending pressure, perhaps sending McDuffie as a blitzer. There's just more options now. And oh, by the way, the pass rush is terrifying on top of that. But having that corner, that star corner, I think will unlock some new things for Chris Shula.
I am saying Brock Bowers and his new coach, Clint Kubiak. Yes, he's a different kind of player than Jackson Smith and Jigba, but Kubiak was so good at using that boot game, that play-action game, to create those runaway opportunities for Jackson Smith and Jigba over the middle of the field and create opportunities after the catch. Brock Bowers is going to see linebackers. He's going to see nickel corners. He's going to see safeties in coverage. He can beat all those guys if he's one-on-one. There's going to be a lot of those generated for him in this offense. There's the potential for a historically impressive season for a tight end from the third-year pro.
Yeah, to your point, Kubiak called Bowers a football robot from heaven. I think that's a compliment, definitely his type on paper. And Kubiak's offense always been great at bringing out the best in tight ends. And speaking of tight ends, Jeremy Fowler has an article on ESPN.com today that ranks the top 10 tight ends in the NFL based on a survey of executives, coaches, and scouts. And Brock Bowers topped the list for the second year in a row, just ahead of Trey McBride, who led all tight ends in catches and yards last season. George Kittle third, while the newlywed Travis Kelce remains in the top 10. Kevin, do you agree with this list?
Trey McBride is very close to being number 1 here. He's getting better in the run game. I think that you saw it last year with both of these guys. I think it's kind of 1A and 1B. I think Bowers, this article detailed, Patrick Surtain goes against Brock Bowers. That's how much respect defenses want to show him. Now, part of that might be that the Raiders don't have any other options for a top cornerback to go against, whereas Arizona would have, Marvin Harrison or Michael Wilson, somebody like that. But I really do think that it's a tie near the top for me. I wouldn't be able to decide if I was drafting them right now.
Yeah, this list is chock full of talent, and we have plenty more on NFL Live coming your way. Keep it right here on NFL Live. And as it stands today, the Rams, who fell just short of the Super Bowl last season, are the betting favorites this season at DraftKings Sportsbook. This would be the first time the Rams enter a season as the Super Bowl betting favorite in over 20 years. Head coach Sean McVay, the mastermind behind the high-powered LA offense, does some drawing for us.
If you take the role seriously, it allows you to be able to understand things about the big picture that you wouldn't otherwise get exposed to. You're able to kind of see the genesis of game plans, the genesis of the playbook.
Every Tuesday, you can find a Rams offensive assistant turning head coach Sean McVay's vision into the weekly game plan.
Touchdown! What a call from Sean McVay!
We've had a good track record of some guys that have gone on that have been successful drawers and now are really successful coordinators or head coaches.
Love you.
Love you, brother.
Let's do this thing,
You're the best in the world. Let's go.
Lead these guys, be you.
McVay says one of his greatest learning lessons came from a job he had when he was an assistant coach in Washington under offensive coordinator Kyle Shanahan in 2010.
I remember when I was drawing plays for Kyle Shanahan, I got exposure to be able to see how he, looked at the game. Hey, why are we doing this, or what's the thought process behind it? It was a great teaching tool for me.
Yeah, Sean was awesome. The picture draw always has the most access to the coordinator, the guy you spend the most time with.
Two-jet lightning, Z under, double left, two-jet lightning, Z.
With McVay's rise in the coaching ranks to offensive coordinator and then head coach in 2017, he's been able to pass on the play drawing baton to coaches on his staff.
I started drawing in 2008. It was kind of a rite of passage. I think Shane handed off to me when he came to the Rams. I handed off to Liam Cohen. Liam Cohen, I think, handed off to Zach Robinson. So there's a nice little fraternity we got going there.
What was your reaction, Zach, when you found out you'd be doing this role?
Depression. At first, it's a lot of long nights, long hours. There's a lot of pictures to draw.
I'd never drawn. I'd drawn with a piece of paper and a pen on everything. It's not easy at first, though. You're also trying to bring Sean's vision to life on a picture. And so that's hard to do at times, where you don't want players to ever truly run a route just like it's drawn and designed on a picture, because that's their creativity. That's who they are as players. That's what makes them special. But you'd like to be able to bring out some of what you as a coach would like it to look like on the page. And that's a challenge. That's a little bit of a form of art.
Coaches use an architectural program to bring the pictures to life. Last season, Nate Scheelhaus held the crucial role of taking McVay's play script to build the week's offensive schemes, which he turned around overnight.
So the starting point would be after I get the concepts of the week and the formations and the plays that we're anticipating running, you've kind of got this library of files that you have and similarities, at least with some of those concepts. You're opening it up, and this week we're going to specifically run it in this specific formation. So you're typing out, man, the formation is snug, right? We're running 11 pop, and the defense that we're planning on getting is over defense, playing cover 3.
And that's what the players use after they see the presentation from the offensive coordinator, and they build the whole playbook off of that.
Down the right sideline, caught by Nakua, touchdown LA!
When you think back to drawing plays for Sean, is there like a moment that comes to mind?
There is, for sure. It involved Sean McVay and Matt LaFleur. It's the simplest play known to man. It's both stick. It's just 2 5-yard stick routes. And I remember Sean wanted to draw with a straight stem and an out, and then Matt came back and said, no, it should be a inside stem, vertical, and out. So I redrew them all that way. And then Sean said, what are you doing? I told you it's straight stem. So I kind of got back in the middle between Matt and Sean, and I didn't know who to answer. One's the offensive coordinator, one's the head coach. I remember redrawing the most basic pass known to man way more times than I should have.
There's a lot of worth to it in terms of the amount of detail that goes into it, the amount of also communication as that drawer that you have to be. And so I do believe it's an important deal, and so a lot of respect to the guys that have done it.
You got to do a little bit of everything. So you just kind of gives you a very good foundation on how you're going to coach the rest of your career.
But when you get exposure to these great coaches like Kyle, like Mike Shanahan, I look back and I realize how grateful I was to really be able to see how did they do it, and then what's the best way to be able to mesh all the best parts of them into what we try to do on a year-to-year and a week-to-week basis.
Such a great job by Sarah Barshop with that story, and that was such an incredible peek inside of Sean McVay's mind and his process. How do you think he's changed the league, Kevin?
It's his league. I had Champ Bailey on my show a couple of months ago, and I asked him the biggest difference between when he entered the league to now, and he said the quarterbacks used to be the chess masters in football. It was Peyton, it was Brady, it was Breeze. Now it's the coaches, and he said that's because of Sean McVay and what he was able to do with the quarterback position, especially pre-snap, telling the quarterback where to go with the ball and making these plays easy for them. I had Levante David on the show this week, obviously one of the greatest linebackers of his generation, and he said the biggest change from when he entered the league over a decade ago to now is the way that coaches, especially McVay and Shanahan, are obviously related in football terms, are able to stress linebackers. We're seeing this now in the draft just a couple weeks ago. Everybody wanted tight ends. Why? Because they wanted to have 13 personnel to then throw at different defenses, which have gotten smaller and lighter. And guess what? We're going to throw a bunch of tight ends at you, and we're going to stretch the field vertically with Puka Nacua, and defenses do not have the personnel to adjust. That's the biggest thing right now. This is Sean McVay's league from an offensive standpoint.
It's no surprise that they're the favorites to win the Super Bowl this year. And since McVay took over in 2017, the Rams have the third most efficient offense in the NFL, behind only the Chiefs and the Packers. It's pretty good company. Our cornerback, Sauce Gardner, keeping busy this offseason with a beach workout leading up to training camp. Check it out. They don't call him Sauce for nothing. Good for him. All right.
I tried that. Couldn't get through it.
We need video of you working out on the beach next, Kevin. I think that'll be really good for the show.
Yeah.
Okay, in case you missed it yesterday, Josh Allen was asked about when he starts thinking about football again in the offseason.
I don't think my brain stops thinking football, to be honest. So you try to get away and get it off it as much as you can and really enjoy your time off. But constantly thinking about it, constantly thinking how I can be better, and just excited to get back on the field here soon. And July 28th is our report date, and get things in full swing here soon.
The man just had a baby. Leave him alone. Okay, Josh, excited for the season, but as we look back to Bill Barnwell's skill player rankings, the Bills find themselves at the bottom of the list. Remember, this is based on having an average quarterback and does take into account injuries like the Giants, for example. So having said that, Buffalo's still the fourth worst skill group in the NFL heading into the 2026 season. Alex, Bill, why do you have Buffalo at the bottom of this group?
I just don't see that guy who's going to win against man-to-man coverage consistently on a weekly basis. And that's something that's been missing from this offense since Stephon Diggs left town. Over the past couple of years, the Bills are second in the NFL in QBR against zone coverage. They're 16th against man-to-man coverage. And that includes Josh Allen's impact as a scrambler, which teams typically wouldn't want to do against the Bills because Josh Allen is so good when he scrambles. But we're seeing the Bills, because they don't have that guy, they're very predictable with what they want to do. Joe Brady loves calling mesh, the old air raid play where you have two crossers over the middle of the field, a wheel route. He calls that over and over and over again because he doesn't have a personnel solution for man coverage. He only has a schematic one. And so last year, we saw teams do a really good job of defending that. They would show the Bills' man and then check the zone after the snap, and they wouldn't have an answer for it. They need a guy who can consistently win one-on-one against man-to-man coverage. They're hoping DJ Moore will be that guy. I don't think he was consistently in Chicago. Hoping he is for the Bills' sake, but unless Dalton Kincaid can stay healthy for 17 games and really take a step forward and be kind of the core of that offense, I just don't see the same kind of receiver who can win the way that so many other teams at least have one of those guys who can win against man coverage.
Mina, do you agree with this?
I would have them higher. I do agree with Bill about man coverage. That's been an issue for the offense, but I think DJ Moore helps in that regard, and he doesn't have to be one of the 10 best receivers in the NFL to at least give them a credible threat against those looks. He also allows them, I think, to play more multiple tight end sets, interestingly enough, because he plays on the outside. And Dalton Kincaid, in my mind, is their best weapon against man coverage, and then you can get the matchups you like there. Another reason why I'm higher, though, is I'm so high on James Cook. I think he's such a good running back. Obviously he gets to benefit from playing behind an excellent offensive line and next to Allen, who's a rushing threat himself. But NGS has this stat, rush yards over expected, where they really try to isolate what the running back is responsible for. And James Cook ranked first amongst a high volume backs in rush yards over expected per carry. So he's doing the most with what he's given. And I just think they have such a good running back, solid tight end group. Adding DJ Moore, for me, the total picture is a little bit higher.
First of all, Josh Allen, if you never stop thinking about football, you're welcome to join the Summer Friday NFL Live crew. We've always got a seat for you right here. We're doing it every week. I think that Bill is right on the skill group ranking here. The Bills just didn't do enough. DJ Moore is not that guy. His production's gone down each of the last 3 seasons. And so I just look at the Broncos, who got a much better player in Jalen Waddle. Look at the Patriots, who got a much better player in A.J. Brown. I just don't see them keeping up in the arms race. Josh Allen has been able to bail them out so much with some of their roster deficiencies. I just don't see what they did in the offseason making much of a dent. And that breaks my heart as someone who wants to see Josh Allen run the best offense he possibly can. I still think it's going to be a great team. I think they win a bunch of games this year, but I just don't think they kept up in the arms race.
Yeah, kind of a waste of Josh Allen's talent. But before we go, time now for one more thing. The NFL Live family is growing. Felix announced the birth of his daughter, Tatum. Tatum's early interest